Hello, everyone. It's your girl singing. I'm back like I never left. Welcome to another episode of the Time00ut podcast. If you're listening on any of the, I don't say our podcast platforms, y'all don't know them. But if you are listening on a podcast platform, make sure that you are subscribing and leaving a rating. Leave a comment if you got some 5 seconds of your time to spare. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notifications button so you can be notified whenever we do drop a new episode. Today, I am joined by, honestly, if you're a woman and you work in sports, this is one of the goats to you. Like, this is just one of the amazing women that you're just looking up to. You probably come across something that she's produced or just heard her on the podcast. And other podcasters, you've seen her, you know who she is. But today I'm joined by Terrika Foster-Brasby. Honestly, her accolades, like, they're deep, they're long, there's range, she's a multimedia extraordinaire. That's all I have to say. Like, you've seen her work. Okay? She's out there. She is a writer. She's a host. She's a producer, an editor. Like, there's only nothing she can't do. But anyways, there is literally like nothing she can't do. But hey, Terrika.
I can absolutely hear your Canadian accent. I'm from Detroit, so I'm very familiar with Canada. So yes, hence my virtual background, Detroit skyline, just because I visit Ontario often. Normally it's Windsor. Windsor is like the closest to us. But I live in Hartford, Connecticut now, so I'm hours away from both the Canadian border and from Detroit. So I'm about 8, like right now, the closest to me would be like Niagara Falls, right? Okay. Like that part would be, and that's about 8 hours for me, where Detroit is like 10 hours for me if I were to drive home. So I'm a ways away being here, like in the middle of nowhere of Hartford, Connecticut. But yeah, it's like, well, and like, this is where ESPN is. So it makes sense that I have to be here, but it's just like, so boring. There's nothing to do.
I guess it kind of leads to my first question. So, yes, you've been at ESPN for a while now. So I just wanted to know, like, when you started, was this your plan? Like, where you are now, was this where you were heading to and like aiming for? Or did you have like a different direction, like where you tried to go somewhere else?
Absolutely. Like, this is totally way off the mark of where I thought I would be, and eventually where I want to be. So I started here 6 years ago in 2014, and I didn't even think that ESPN would hire me. I was like, I don't have any like experience for real. Like, I've been doing my own thing. Like, I was doing my own thing for a long time. So, it was just like, I'm doing my own thing. I'm just going to see what happens. So even when they called me back, I was like, what?
Sure.
Y'all pulled my application? Y'all did that? So that was pretty dope. But I really was just kind of saying to myself, like, this is an opportunity for me to just kind of get my foot in the door and learn and absorb everything that I can learn and can absorb, and meet and network and connect with people who I feel like can help put me on the career path that I really want to be on. And so while doing that, I did just that, like, networked with a lot of people in front of the camera, behind the camera, really tried to learn as much as I possibly could about different parts of the media industry as well as the sports industry. And then kind of throw out little skill sets that I felt like I could contribute outside of what my day-to-day job was. So my day-to-day job is a producer in the radio podcasting department, but I also write, and I used to host and all this other good stuff. So I was like, hey, maybe if I can just like sprinkle little pieces of some of the other things that I do in different areas, I'll get opportunities to kind of continue my career path in that direction of being more of a host and an analyst. And so fortunately, I was able to do that. The Undefeated gave me a shot and let me write a couple of articles for them. espnW gave me a shot, let me write a couple of articles for them. I'm currently working with this project called Here For It, which is a digital TV series. So that's a lot of fun. So I'm now starting to really do what it is that I want to do, but I've had so much fun along the way, kind of doing what I've been doing.
That is amazing. Like, you're literally doing like, it's like you're doing so many separate things, but they all kind of like overlap in like different ways. And like, if they don't, like, you're still able to find ways to like bring them together, which I think is really cool. especially in this industry. I feel like in a lot of people that I've spoken to, so I actually spoke with Kelly Fraser last week, I think, and we were talking about how a lot of people who work in the sports industry, like they have their one 9 to 5 paid job, but they have like 7 other things going on in the background, like it's a podcast or they're writing somewhere. I recently started as a contributing writer for this other sponsored platform. So just like seeing a lot of like sports professionals having like 10 different jobs, like on their LinkedIn, it says like so-and-so the president, so-and-so the president, so-and-so the president. Like they have so many jobs, which I think is really amazing and really good to see. But I guess like you are definitely one of like the women I've been looking up to within the industry. Just seeing how you're able to like navigate a lot of platforms that typically don't represent us as much, you know? And then see women like you and like the China and just seeing that like, oh wait, like they're paving ways, like they're making space, like they're making platforms, they're hosting conversations, which is so amazing. But like given as you've been in the industry for a while now, what are some like skills or some tools that you think are like underrated, either in media or in sports?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. I still feel like I'm just one of the girls, you know, like so that's really dope. But yeah, like I think that it's important for just anyone coming in this industry to kind of have that ability to just be able to do a little bit of everything, because it just kind of puts us in a better position. Because you're right, there isn't a lot of us represented in any facet, whether that's behind the scenes as a producer, whether that's in front of the camera, whether you're writing or, you know, as a journalist. Like it's just so many different areas in the sports industry, and majority of them are dominated by men. And so and then the ones that are women heavy doesn't seem to be like Black women heavy. So it's really important that, you know, you put yourself in the best position to be successful by having in your toolbox the ability to do everything. So if you write, awesome. If you can edit, even better. If you are an on-camera talent and you know how to edit your own videos and you know how to film your own stuff, even better. If you're into podcasting and you know how to edit your own podcast and you know how to publish your own podcast and you also know how to market your own podcast, look at you. You know what I mean? Like, and it's crazy that we have to do all of those things. And others, you know, don't necessarily have to do all of those things, but being able to do all of those things is what will set you apart from other people. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing that I've learned. It's just having the ability to be a unicorn is just something really important, you know, and especially right now in this digital age where everything is social media heavy, everything is podcast heavy, like having that kind of ability to be able to do your thing on those different platforms and be successful at it is definitely a skill set that wasn't really popular when I first started. Like I started really 2011 maybe, and that doesn't seem like it's super far, but in 2011, like, you know, people weren't on Twitter like they're on Twitter now. Like Twitter was around, but it wasn't like it is now. You know, there was no TikTok, there was no Snapchat. Exactly, right? So like there was, like, it was just Facebook, and Facebook was really starting to, you know, by this time, I think Facebook was probably about 7 or 8 years in. So a lot of people were still getting, you know, used to the new features and all this other stuff. And podcasting was still like something that only a few people really had, or wasn't a lot of people that were doing it. So these platforms, you know, were still fairly new, even though we were well into, you know, the 21st century at this point. And it was rare to find someone who knew how to edit a podcast or knew how to understand how to record and all this other good stuff. So now, you know, we're in 2021 and everybody and their mom has a podcast now, you know, and, you know, everybody's, you know, right. Everybody's recording videos and putting up videos and stuff now. So it's like, you have to kind of find those things that will set you apart from, you know, the thing that everyone else has been able to catch on and be able to learn, you know, so just kind of stay ahead of the curve in that way.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. I know when I look at like myself and like other women I know in the sports industry, like what like they have their job role and then they're doing like 1,010 things, 1,010 things, 1,010 things outside of that. And I'm like, that's not even your department. Like you say no, like you don't even know how to do it, but you went and learned it on the job because it needed to be done. So I definitely agree that like within sports, like women definitely, I don't want to say we're putting in more work, but we are.
No, that's what it is. We're putting in more work.
More work than the men are doing. So I don't know how it works. Like I think we're just learning more. Like there's more expected of us, like within this industry. Like whenever there are issues, like they always look to the women to solve it, even if it's not in their alley. They're like, "Can you edit this something for me? Can you Photoshop real quick?" And I'm like on YouTube, like learning how to like do all these different tech things I've never learned before. But that's really so true.
Yeah, you definitely got to have a toolbox of a bevy of different things to do and to learn and to know, just because we have to, we're a triple threat, right? We're Black, we're women, we're in an industry that is just already dominated by men, by males. We have to fight off the stereotypes that come along with that. There's just a lot. There's a lot that we have on our plate, and we have to be super women, unfortunately. So the more that you can have in your toolbox, I think not the easier it'll be, but the better equipped you'll be to handle what comes your way.
Yeah, that is actually definitely true. That's so true. This also reminds me of a piece I saw that you wrote last year. So I guess just background for people who, I'll definitely post it somewhere along with the video on the podcast, just that like I think it was really amazing. But just in terms of things leave behind in 2020, disrespecting Black women, like what brought you to that point? Because I feel like there are so many conversations that I don't want to say I swept under the carpet, but I just never really addressed, like with myself or like within like the Black community, or like just like within like my normal community as a whole. A lot of conversations regarding like just being a Black woman and being Black and colorism and stuff like that. So a lot of like conversations that just never got addressed. I feel like last year was the orientation for the we're talking about it all. Whatever you want to talk, even if you don't want to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. So what led you to write that piece last year?
Yeah, last 2020, man, 2020 just like it was just boom. Okay, like, it just opened the door for so many things that I think a lot of us kind of already knew or already saw or already were aware existed. But from a mainstream society, I don't want to say that they didn't know that it existed, even though there's a lot of people who were like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize this." Come on, yes, you did. You knew that. It's like, right? It's like you knew it. You just maybe you didn't want to believe it. Maybe you didn't want to accept it. But 2020 kind of put it in our face, where everyone had no choice but to accept it. Like, this is what's happening, right? And among everything that was happening throughout the course of the year, it was Black women who were leading the charge in a lot of it. It was also a Black woman that kind of helped spark this movement to where it is, right? But it was definitely, the death of Breonna Taylor. It was the leadership of women like Stacey Abrams and LaTosha Brown. And it was like the women of the WNBA who really put their money in their platform, to the best of use. And it just continued. And then, here in the States, Kamala Harris winning, the vice presidency along with, Joe Biden and being the first to serve in that role. It was just so much. And to see Black women at the forefront of that, it really made a difference for a lot of us. However, there's still so many moments that I can point to where we're pushed aside, where we're pushed to the left, where our concerns are not heard, where our fears are not recognized, where people still find it okay to disparage us, and people still find it okay to to flat out just disrespect us and what we're doing. And at some point you're like, listen, a lot of the things happening in our world and in our country wouldn't be happening if it were not for the hard work and the efforts of Black women. So while you are speaking on these things, what you need to remember is that going into 2021, you need to leave that back there.
Exactly.
Because this is how we got to where we are. This is what we'll be doing moving forward. So leave the respect back there. And that's just kind of like how I saw it. And really, I was writing this around the end of 2020, around like December. And it's just like, you know, we always have these countdowns. We always have these, you know, these are the top moments of the year. We look into the next year and we say, hey, these are our resolutions. This is what we're going to do different this year. I really wanted to put it on people's hearts that in this year and every year moving forward, we need to recognize how important Black women are to our society, what we do, what we bring, and you need to put some respect on us. Just simple as that. So that's kind of where I was coming from.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember back in the summer, even like within the past few months, like everyone's like, oh my gosh, you know, the NBA and social activism. And I'm like, definitely not downplaying what they're doing. Like, it's really important. It's really important what they're doing. Like, they're doing some great things, like refusing to play some games and, you know, refusing to like answer comments and like just bring up social issues like in front of the reporters. However, I was like, I mean, the WNBA been doing this. Like, I mean,
yep.
Like, my award, like, y'all act like my award does not exist. Like,
right.
a whole season, and like, and everyone's just like, oh my gosh, the NBA is like, you know, making big statements. And I'm like,
I felt the same way. I'm just like, you guys really must have forgotten that the WNBA has been doing this for years. Like, you might have ignored them, but listen, they have receipts, okay? They have receipts. They've been doing this.
Where was y'all?
Like, where we are, right?
Honestly, yeah, it's just so weird to me sometimes, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess that just brings me to like another question. That's like, what role did you think, or do you think that sports had in activism before last summer, as opposed to now? That like, okay, so everyone's finally like agreeing, like, oh, maybe sports and politics like do intersect. Oh, okay, like now what? So like, how is that?
The worst.
I know some people are still like denying it, and they're like, no, it's different. Shut up and play. But I mean, we're here now. Like, now.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, sports and politics have always coexisted. Like, always coexisted. Think about it. And when sport teams win a championship, what do? They go and visit the president of the United States. You know what I mean? Before we start every game, we sing the national anthem. Yeah. We, you know, say the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever. You know, like, there are different times where you may see different politicians at different athletic events. So it's like there's always been this intersection. It's only when it intersects in a way that is different from what you believe or different from what you think it should be, or when it brings up an issue that makes you uncomfortable, that you decide, well, you know, sports is sports and politics is politics. And that's just not how it works. I think there's always been some semblance of political statements throughout different sporting events. But I think last year is when it got to a point where, and I'll actually go back even further, because I really think that it was when Colin Kaepernick decided to kneel in 2016, that really put it on the forefront, right? But it's amazing how many people then, you know, called Kaepernick various names, said he was being disruptive, blah, 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 blah. And then 3 years later, the NFL creates a social justice movement called Inspire Change, right? It's like, well, you ostracized this guy like 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to give him a job now. Now all of a sudden, like, you guys, we were
lost here. Sorry.
Right? Like, did we completely forget this entire destruction of this man's name and reputation over this event? You know, so I think it's always been there. It's just that there's a level of uncomfort that people get with it, and over the last year, in particular, athletes have been okay with making people uncomfortable. And other people have started to say, well, you know what? I'm okay with making people uncomfortable. And now those people who feel that sports and politics don't mesh or shouldn't intersect are kind of in the minority. Because there are way more people now who understand why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. And there's more people now who understand why the WNBA dedicated their entire season to uplifting the name of Breonna Taylor. And they understand why, you know, the NBA went as far as they did in terms of and LeBron James, you know, starting his movement, more than an athlete. The whole shut up and dribble, so like comments like that. And even more recently, there's a comment that was made by former Green Bay quarterback Brett Favre, who made the statement that you know, some athletes should just, or certain people should just, you know, if you want to own a team or something along the lines of we're paid a lot of money to do a job, just do the job and you know, leave the decision making to other people, something along those lines. You know, I don't want to misquote him, but the point is, like, there are still those who feel like athletes shouldn't have a voice. Exactly, that they shouldn't have a voice. Exactly. And I think that there are now more people who are saying we're human too. And it's actually sort of like how we are as journalists. You know, there was a lot that were going on over the last year, and you kind of have to balance, like, where do I stand as a journalist, where I'm reporting the news, where I am trying to keep this fair and balanced. And then at the same time, understanding that this is affecting me. This is affecting my community. I'm a human being. I'm a Black woman. Like, this is hard. You know what I mean? Like, you can't expect me to report on this and not feel some type of way personally about it. I think athletes have that same thing. They're human. They're members in the community. They have themselves been victims of police brutality. Exactly. You know what I mean? Even, oh my God, Masai Ujiri. Like, a perfect example, right? So,
you know, we're in Canada. Doesn't mean that it's not a thing. I remember when we showed up with the what did the bus say? Was it Black Lives Matter? When they showed up to the bubble, but our bus like said something like along those terms. I know some people were like, "But y'all are in Canada, like you guys are the Toronto team." But I'm like, first of all of our players are American.
Right.
And they leave here, they go back home, they're going back to America, and you know, they're definitely still like experiencing these things, and you know, it does happen in Canada. There's just like, Canada has like, the population of Canada is like the population of Florida, so we just have less people. So like per capita, it's just like a smaller amount reported, but it's like definitely still going on.
Still prevalent, right? Exactly. And I think that's so important, that, and I loved seeing how the Black Lives Matter movement touched so many people in different countries. There were, you know, people who were supporting us from Canada, people supporting us from, you know, the UK, people supporting us in Australia. It was literally a worldwide phenomenon in some way, right? Like, this is racism, police brutality. It is a global issue. It is not just only happening in the United States. And so I just think that, and sports have global reach, specifically the NBA. Like, they're, you know, they literally have players who spend who spend a lot of time overseas. And then the WNBA, their players play overseas in the off season. Right. And so they build a following, and they build love from different fans and the fan base in those countries. And they follow what we're doing over here in the United States. They're following, and they're aware. Right. And so we just got to get our ish together. That's pretty much what it means.
Like, yeah, it's actually so, like, I feel like now we're at this point where it's like sports fans are, who typically like watch sports to avoid or like escape from like politics and like human rights thing and like social justice, like now it's kind of like invading their space. Like, their sports times, like commercials in between sports games are saying like Black Lives Matter, like players are wearing t-shirts. Now there's kind of like shook because they're like, wait, this was supposed to be my safe space. Like, I have to be held accountable for my actions, my beliefs, but like now they're being forced to do. And I've definitely been, not side-eyeing, but I've been looking at, especially at being Black History Month, I've just been looking at a lot of the teams and leagues that, you know, posted Black squares and whatnot, and were like, diversity. So I've just been like, all of them, and I side-eye the NFL a lot whenever they tweet anything now. But any tweet that's not an apology to Colin Kaepernick, I literally side-eye it. Now that they're I think her name, is her name Amanda Goodman? The young Black woman. I read the poem at the inauguration.
Oh, Amanda Gorman, yes.
Gorman. Yeah. So now I saw that she's speaking tomorrow at the Super Bowl, and okay, so like I think the NFL is trying to be like progressive, but I'm like, you guys are refusing to admit the one wrong, which just caused us all to have this feeling towards you guys. Like, do you want to talk about that or no? But yeah, like, do you think that they're trying to be progressive or they're just like covering it up?
I don't think the NFL really truly understands how to make this right. Like, it's like I feel like your heart, like they want to be in the right, well, some people want to be in the right place, but there are others, it's just like it's like if there's any organization that fails miserably at reading the room, it's the NFL. It's like every time we think there's an opportunity for you to get it right, you just blow it, right? So I don't know. Honestly, no idea what this is supposed to mean. There was I believe at the beginning of the football season, they were like, we're going to play the Black national anthem at every game. Sir, that serves no purpose. Like, what do you, like, that's not what we were asking for. You're not, that's not what we're doing here, boss. That's not it. Like, that's not it. It's just, so it's like they're trying, but they really need more people in positions to really help them understand what it means to diversify and what it means to just sometimes lay low and let things happen, let things take its course. And yeah, like, sometimes it's just best to be quiet, right? And so they need to understand when they need to speak and when they need to be quiet. So that's one. And then they also need to understand that they have a lot of people in positions who don't understand how valuable and important it is to make the right decisions when it comes to diversity and inclusion. I think right now the hottest topic with them in specific is all the head coaching positions that were open, and only 2 of them went to minority candidates. And it's just like, really? Like, that's crap, right? And so you preach that we're here for diversity, you preach that we're here for making everyone feel included, but that's not what your actions say. It's not what your owners do. So, I mean, I can't speak for them and how they feel. I can only speak for what I see and how it is perceived by me and maybe by some other fans. And so for me, it doesn't look like there seems to be a desire to really, practice that diversity and inclusion piece that they're preaching to all of us.
Yeah, I've seen that their diversity and inclusion report is like fairly low, and then like in comparison to other leagues, and I feel bad, but I compare like every league in terms of like DEI to like the WNBA, but
because they're the bomb at it.
I was like, they're literally the golden standard, but like their report card was fairly low, but when it was high, it was sort of like, okay, fine, we'll include women. But like, what does that range of women even look like? Like, the way the opportunities are being presented and like the roles that they hold, and that's why I think it's so important. Like PR has been such an underrated thing I've seen these past few months. Like, not having a diverse PR team, or at least someone who's like on Twitter, like following trends and seeing social media, like at least reading the comments under what you post. Like, when you guys are getting flags, like, that you need to apologize. But I guess this just means that maybe the NFL doesn't have like a diverse PR team, right? Or do you think it's possible they have a diverse PR team, but their suggestions are not being taken?
I have no idea. I just think that they could do a better job of understanding what the fan base is saying and do a better job of doing what's right? I think a lot of times there are traps that, multi-million-dollar companies, billion-dollar companies fall into, is being so focused on the money and so focused on a specific audience that they miss out on the rest of their audience. And Black people, like, we love our sports, right? And there is a huge amount of underserved audiences of Black and brown people who are continually slapped in the face by organizations like the NFL. And at the same time, it's quite a conundrum because you love football, right? You love football, you love the players. There's an attachment that you have as a fan to a team. But it's hard when you constantly feel like you're being slapped in the face by, not being represented fairly, by, not really feeling like your concerns are being heard. And that's a way a lot of us feel doubly for us as, females who are fans of football, because there's the issue of not hiring diversely. There's the issue of, there are some teams who are giving to causes that have to do with police brutality, but then there are some who are not. There are those who are working with Inspire Change, and it's not like Inspire Change is a bad initiative. It's not. It's just that, how do you say that you want to do this, and the person who helped create and brought this to your attention is still without a job? It's like, I don't really know how genuine you are,
Exactly.
So
like, who's even running those type of who's running that movement? Who's in charge of it?
Exactly. What are you doing? So that's just kind of like where it is. It's just, if there aren't enough people in the room who can help make decisions to better have a public face for the image that the NFL has right now, then I think that they definitely need to work on putting those people there,
Yeah, especially with the fact that they'll release those statements, and then you'll have games where people are still booing when people kneel. There's a lot of, I feel like there's
that's another issue, right? We're still trying to battle COVID-19. We're still trying to figure out how we even get people, and that's a totally different conversation that we don't even have time for. But it's real. You're battling racism. We're battling COVID. We got a lot going on right now. We can't really deal with anything else.
No, it's literally, I'm picking one. I don't know if I can pick racism. Let me and my health just be well, and I'll just stay at home. Racism, I can postpone that because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. But yeah, NFL, I mean, hopefully, we'll see how tomorrow goes.
We will see how tomorrow goes.
I mean, if Mahomes wins, that would be nice for, Black History Month or whatever. But, everybody's the goals. Let whoever win. And it's fine with me. Anyone in particular that you want to win?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely rooting for Patrick Mahomes. I am a strong Tom Brady hater, so I was gonna root for Patrick Mahomes anyway. For anyone listening, it goes back to I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan for football, and the Colts used to be in the same division with the New England Patriots. So for a while, we were actual division rivals. On top of that, as I mentioned before, I'm from Detroit. I'm from Michigan, and I am a Michigan State fan, where Tom Brady went to Michigan. And anyone who knows about Michigan and Michigan State knows we are sworn enemies. So the hate for Tom Brady goes far beyond the NFL. There's history. There's history in this hate, right? So as a fan, I'm obviously rooting for Patrick Mahomes. But as an analyst, I honestly just think that Kansas City is just a better, just has an offense that's ridiculous, that, as well as Tampa Bay has played, as well as their defense has played, I think that their offense is just going to be a little bit stronger.
Yeah,
so
definitely more
there's
experience
that.
in terms of Super Bowl. But
yeah. Tampa hasn't been there since 2003. I was 20 maybe in 2003. So I'm old now.
You're not old. You're seasoned.
I'm a little seasoned. Yeah, right. I'm a little seasoned.
Wow. But yeah, I can't wait tomorrow. It's just so weird, but the sports fan of me loves the game, and then the sports biz side of me is I can't wait to see the ads and see how much they paid to see the impressions.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll just be sitting there with my little notebook, taking notes and comparing it to the 2020 ads and whatnot.
That's awesome.
But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I feel I had my questions that I knew I wanted to ask, but then I just had my own personal I'm talking to a goat here from ESPN.
Aw, that's so awesome.
Let me just get my own personal questions in there too, and just ask what I want to know. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
But no, thank you so much for inviting me. I had a blast. Thank you for asking me to join.
Oh, no problem. I'm definitely gonna put the link to all your socials. I'm gonna put the link to your blog and the podcast, around the rim.
Yay.
I am,
Yay. Awesome.
So I'll definitely put that in there too.
Awesome. You're doing a great job. So absolutely keep me abreast of what you're doing and what's going on, and let's stay connected for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You're welcome. You too. Bye-bye.